Hello, and thank you for joining us, and welcome to another edition of Health in the Heartland, a program dedicated to the health issues that affect you. I'm Karen Blakelock, and chances are at some point you've contemplated the idea of losing weight. And joining me today, I have a panel of experts from Heart and Memorial Health. We're here to help guide you through this maze of weight management. Joining me is Lisa Murphy, registered dietitian and wellness coordinator. Next to Lisa is Dr. Jessica Dowe, family practice physician. And next is Marcia Barnes, and she is the registered nurse and bariatric coordinator with our bariatric services. Thank you for all being here today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, let's start a little bit with the alarming statistics of obesity. And we all know if you turn on the news or you're reading a magazine, it's facing us every day because we have a nation, unfortunately, that is not as healthy as it needs to be, and this is something that's a concern not only for adults, which we'll pretty much focus on today, but also for children. So I have some fast facts, just a little bit that I've understood, I think, from the data. It comes actually from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and they said more than 2 in 3 adults are considered to be overweight or obese. And maybe we need to start there a little bit with what defines the difference between being overweight and being obese. So Dr. Dowe, I'm going to kind of direct that to you with a little bit of maybe a definition of that body mass index that we hear about.
Correct. As far as the United States Preventive Service Task Force gives the definition of obesity as a body mass index, and I'm sure everybody has heard of BMI, at least if they come to my office. It is defined as a BMI of greater than 30. Overweight is considered between less than 30 and greater than 25, just to give you some intervals there. But we all know that body mass index is an indirect reference to obesity, because you could have 2 individuals with the same BMI, however, their body mass fat may be totally different. What am I talking about? Well, the body mass index is described as your height versus your weight. And you can have numbers as far as metric, or you can have pounds in the English definition. So that a person who is a bodybuilder could have a BMI quite comparable to that of somebody who has a lot of body fat. So when we talk about obesity, we're really talking about fat rather than we're talking about actual weight.
Absolutely. I had actually seen a definition too when they were talking about overweight, saying that, you know, overweight can have something to do with the muscle, the bone, etc., and water weight, of course, too. Now, granted, the obesity, exactly what you hit on, talks about the fat content. So that's maybe the calories in, calories out, our balance, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too. And Lisa, maybe as a registered dietitian, can you tell us a little bit about what a calorie is and why we need to be concerned with that energy balance maybe there? Yeah,
a lot of times calories get a negative term, and really the definition of calorie is energy. And we all have to have energy and those calories to live, to function, to do all the basic things that we take for granted. A lot of times when we talk about weight management, we just think about you know, calories to lose weight, but we've got to have those for our brain to function, our heart, lungs, and everything. So the calorie basically is our energy that we need. And we have to have that balance to have that to maintain weight. If we take in more calories than we need, then we're going to gain weight. If we take in about the same as we burn through our activities of daily living and exercise, then we're going to maintain. And then, of course, if we take in less than we're burning, then that's going to cause weight loss.
Great definition, and I think we hear those terms too. We hear calories and we hear burning it off, and we're going to come back to that a little bit later maybe as far as some tips. But going back to some of those statistics, and Dr. Dowe, you know, we hear that actually more than 1 in 3 adults are considered to be obese. So why is this such a health concern for us as Americans? What's the link between being obese and maybe different disease processes or health concerns that we might have?
You talk about the statistics and the Kentucky facts. You can go to the Census Bureau here in Kentucky. We know, as you said, for the United States it's 1 in 3. In Kentucky, it's quite comparable, actually. And so we talked about the body fat. Body fat sort of is just like a container of lard. It sort of sits there. It doesn't utilize a lot of the energy that Lisa was talking about in helping us be healthy. So if you have a jar of lard there, it's like it's in your body, and it turns into disease. It turns into comorbidities, and we reflect that into dying. So if you have a lot of fat and obesity, the consequences of that, heart disease, high blood pressure. We know that the statistics of diabetes in Kentucky is quite comparable to that of people being obese. Isn't that ironic? Mm-hmm. Not really, because when we look at the curves, when we look at the statistics, diabetes follows obesity, or if obesity causes diabetes. So that we have studies to show now that if we could decrease our obesity rates, we can decrease the propensity for diabetes. And so I'm so happy that we're having this conference, and you know, this is one of my pet peeves, and in my family, for example, diabetes is quite prevalent. My mother had diabetes, my brother has diabetes, and I did a self-experiment, if you will. When my daughter was born, 25 years ago, I started to exercise. Now I exercise every morning, about 30 minutes. And I figure if I can get up early and do it before I go to work, then anybody can. And so far, the gene in my body has not occurred. So I'm just thrilled to exercise, exercise, exercise. We can help beat some of the diseases that are associated with long-term obesity.
Exactly. Now, Marcia, I think Dr. Dowe brought up some great points. You know, being the coordinator of bariatric services that we have here, I'm sure you see individuals that are coming in and struggling with trying to make some decisions and look at what they can do as far as their weight management. And we talked a little bit about exercise. What are some tips for our viewers as they think about making some lifestyle changes?
Well, especially in regard to exercise, one of the things that I try to emphasize is to incorporate it in your daily living. At least try to park further away from your, like if you're going in to get groceries, park further away from the store and those kind of things. And I will be honest, that is one of the major things that they struggle with, is the exercise component of it, because they always say, you know, I don't have time for that or whatever. And I always share a cartoon with them that says, do you have time 1 minute to exercise or 24 hours to be dead? I share that with my patients. They all get a laugh out of it, but it's true. You know, they need to dedicate a short amount of time, like Dr. Dowe talked about, in doing that. And you can do it in intervals. It's really great if you can do it in 30 minutes, but if you can't, at least try to get it in some form or fashion. As far as losing weight, that is great to exercise also, but the maintenance, they have found that exercise is one of the key components to maintaining the weight loss, whether you've done it due to you know, diet, restriction, changes in lifestyle, or the surgery. In order to maintain it, that is one of the key components that you need to do, is exercise. And it is very difficult, but some of the tips is just to incorporate it in your daily living. Make it a part of your lifestyle.
Exactly. Taking the stairs, walking,
instead of the elevator, and you could even lift cans of food while you're sitting and watching TV. Start out with small, you know, make sure that you don't lift too much. I mean, even don't sit there so passive. Do something while you're watching television.
And actually grow into it. You don't have to necessarily start by, I'm going to start walking and then walk 5 miles. I mean, you start by walking to the mailbox.
Right. Most of the time people give that up. They'll walk 5 miles and then the next day they're tired. So it's better to do it in gradual increments. Yes.
Good points. Good points. Now, one of the other things too, of course, we need to eat. We were talking about our calories and our intake and trying to have this balance between what we're taking in and burning off. Lisa, we live in a very busy society, and so everybody's on the move, and we have, you know, fast food, or we're going out to restaurants. What can we do as far as our portion control? We're hearing that term a lot too. Give us some tips with portion sizes.
Yeah, our portion control has really got out of hand in the last 20 to 30 years, and I think one of the reasons it has is that we eat out so often, and the fast food and even sit-down restaurants as well give very large portions, and that's something, if we eat out a lot, we become accustomed to those portions. We feel like that's what we need to keep us full. So then even when we're eating at home, we're still looking at those same size portions because that's what we've got become used to. So looking at your plate, and even the plate sizes have grown. We go to a nice restaurant and we're served on a platter instead of a 7 or 8 inch plate. So looking at your plate sizes, and then half of our plate should be fruits and vegetables, and that's one thing too with eating out a lot. We're not getting the fruits and vegetables that we used to. So trying to make half our plate fruit and vegetables, a quarter of it to be a lean protein source, and then another quarter to be a whole grain. There's nothing wrong. We don't have to leave out certain foods. Nothing is off limits, but it's the portion size. You'll hear on a lot of diets, well, you can't have potatoes, or you can't have macaroni and cheese, or you can't have pasta. You can, choosing the healthier versions and cooking them in a healthier way, but the portion size is the key. If you have a half a cup of mashed potatoes, that's not a problem, but if you have 2 cups of mashed potatoes, then it is. The same thing, I think that's one of the ways that the plate is so helpful, and you can go to My Plate on the myplate.gov and get all that information. But that's really helpful with the portion size, is when you look at your plate and you don't feel like you have to measure out everything, because that certainly gets old, having to do that every time that you eat. So using a plate but making it a smaller plate is going to help you with your portion size.